Hello and welcome to our course Introduction to vSphere 8. This is the second lesson of the similar series, a general introduction to virtualization and vSphere 8. And in this lesson number 2, we're going to talk about new feature sets available within vSphere 8, that is a bonus track, and capabilities of vSphere, actually what vSphere is, and what are the basic components and how these architectural components are going to connect with one another, which is considered to be the high-level overview. In this lesson, the lesson outcome would be, after completing this lesson, the learner would be able to describe our vSphere 8 capabilities, vSphere 8 components, integrations, an architectural high-level overview, and protocols and ports used for ESXi host to vCenter server communication. In Introduction to vSphere 8, we are going to talk about server virtualization platform offered by VMware. So actually, whenever we talk about vSphere, so vSphere is comprised of two components. Basically, we call vSphere specifically to the ESXi host as a virtualization engine, but interchangeably, we can use vSphere word or technical term for vCenter server as well. As you know, in our previous series of lesson number 1, we have I have already explained that ESXi host acts as a hypervisor, is the only source for producing virtual machines on top of it. And the vCenter server is the management layer, which usually we actually use for managing multiple ESXi hosts with a single pane of administration, or you can say single pane of management for multiple virtual machines. One vCenter server instance can manage up to 2,500 ESXi hosts at a time. And amongst those 2,500 ESXi hosts, which would be managed through one vCenter server instance, can have up to 40,000 powered on virtual machines plus 5,000 registered virtual machines. So total accumulated number for the virtual machines that going to fall under the umbrella of vCenter server management is 45,000. Amongst the 45,000, 40,000 concurrent powered on VMs, whereas 5,000 would be the part of the inventory of the vCenter server. Now, similarly, in this example, if I just talk about the ESXi host, which is actually the physical hardware that it's going to run on top of that physical hardware. You're going to install the virtualization engine. This virtualization engine actually produces virtual machines. A virtual machine is comprised of operating system and the application system. So the application is the only thing that actually produces the data. So the virtual machine actually directly demands the resources like CPU, virtual memory, and network bandwidth and storage through a service which actually known as VMM. VMM is the internal service that runs inside the ESXi host, which receives requests from the multiple virtual machines and hands down the resource allocation or resource demand to another service which is known as VM kernel scheduler that runs inside the ESXi host. VM kernel scheduler is responsible to schedule multiple virtual machines request onto the physical CPU of ESXi host, as well as evenly distribution of the physical memory, RAM, amongst the multiple virtual machines. So VM kernel scheduler talks to the VM kernel. VM kernel is a service that actually the core of the ESXi host that holds up all the resources of the ESXi host, like CPU, memory, storage, and network bandwidth. So VM kernel holds up these resources and actually hands down these resources as per the need and demand produced by virtual machine through VMM service to the scheduler. Now, in this particular case, that's the bigger picture. Now, in order to produce a virtual machine, in order to start, stop, create, delete, modify. So this lifecycle is managed by another service that runs inside the ESXi host, and its name is hostd. Hostd is a crucial service that manages the lifecycle of the virtual machine, and it runs inside the ESXi host. And it is one of the management service for the ESXi host. Hostd is accompanied with another service which is known as VPXA. So VPXA is the service actually that um, um, is an agent that is used by a vCenter server to connect with the ESXi host. So vCenter server is actually the one that we usually use for the management part, management layer, and manages numerous number of ESXi hosts up to 2,500 in number. So there's a service that runs in the vCenter server. Its name is VPXD. VPXD actually communicates. It's a daemon that connects with the ESXi host agent service VPXA. So once it is get connected, so your ESXi host joined vCenter server or added into the inventory of the vCenter server. And from there, you can have multiple ESXi hosts, and each ESXi host has got its separate VPXA agent that's going to communicate with the vCenter server. Due to any reason, sometimes if the ESXi host just got disconnected, so you usually restart the management agents of the ESXi host by going into the local interface of the ESXi host using SSH or DCUI interface, and then you restart these management agents. Restarting the management agents actually restarts hostd and VPXA services running in the ESXi host to refresh the relationship of ESXi host with the vCenter server